What's going on, everybody? I'm Dan. This is Moonshine talking. Welcome aboard. Hope everyone's having a good one. I'm having a pretty good one for the most part. Yesterday, I had to spend a little bit more money than I wanted to on my truck and getting that repaired, but it's kind of important when you need brakes. Brakes are an important thing, an important component of vehicle maintenance. So, had to go get some brake work done, spent a little bit more money than I wanted to. But nonetheless, I got my truck back within the day. So it's all good. It is what it is. But anyhow, as you can see, using StreamYard again. And the reason I'm doing that is because I feel like it'll kind of keep me a little bit more on point and a little bit more focused as far as what I'm about to get into. Because what I'm about to get into is the show I went to this weekend. It was Swarmfest. It was a 3-day festival here in Tampa, primarily featured a bunch of black and death metal bands, thrash bands from all around the nation, primarily stuff from the Florida area. But there were a bunch of bands that came in for this thing from up north, from Texas, a few other places. And yeah, it was killer. So I figured it would be a lot easier for me to do it this way because when I covered the Devastation on the Nation show, that was 5 bands. It took me 40 plus minutes. So you can only imagine this show had 31 bands. I don't want to take up a year and a day. We're not trying to create Lord of the Rings here. So anyhow, so let's get into it. So this again was a show, a swarm. It was a festival, as you can see. It was again three-day event. You can see all the bands that were on here, some of which I'm sure many people are familiar with. And I'll get into a bunch of them, but it was headlined the first night. It was headlined by a band called Pessimist, who I'm not really familiar with. The second night, it was headlined by a band called Gigan. They're more like they're tech death, a little on the proggy side, and they're pretty decent from what I heard. And then the Sunday night was headlined by Nasty Savage, who they're starting to make their rounds on the festival circuit. Just had a new album come out in October, Jeopardy Room on FHM Records. Good stuff. Go check it out if you haven't heard it already. And then you had Saturday night. There was also, had a bunch of cool bands playing that night. But anyhow, so the show, the festival, I should say, it was put together by, I'm going to try to get their names proper, give them proper credit. It was the Tampa Museum of Metal and the Tampa Morgue podcast. So whether or not you're familiar with either of those entities, go check them out if you want. Go show them a little bit of support because they helped out greatly in getting this thing set up, herding all the feral cats to have this event happen. And it was put on by one of the bands who performed on the show, Promethean Horde. Nick from Promethean Horde. That's him right there, that fella right there. He's the vocalist of Promethean Horde. They're a local black metal band. And you can kind of see they don't have a lot of material out, but they're pretty solid. They're solid black metal. They have little proggy elements as well. But they do a fantastic job. I've seen them a couple of times. That's all the band members. We won't go through that too much. Probably most notable is Jesse from Diabolic. But yeah, if you happen to if you're feeling froggy and you want to check out, this is their full length, Ashes of the Imperium. And that's a killer album. I have it. I purchased it the last time I saw them, and they're really good. I got it through Bandcamp, but then I had some issues getting it. So if you're interested in picking that up or checking it out, go to raymondofthedread.com. That's their website, and that's where you can pick up any of their stuff. But yeah, I'm just pretty much babbling at this point, probably just killing more time than I'm planning on. So you can see these were the set times, the lists of how the show was going to play out on each night, and then we'll get into this one by one, and yeah, so that's that. So let me get on the right screen here. So there so the first night I got there a little after 7. Tunnels is set. They're a local black metal band. They were already on the stage. I've seen them before opening for Promethean Horde. They're a very good band. They had a really good set, a really good performance. I enjoyed it. So then they don't really have a lot. They don't have a lot to advertise, but they are a very good local band. I thought they put on one of the better performances of the weekend. So if you get a chance, go check them out. I believe they have a Bandcamp, but I think you can find them on Bandcamp. And they also had another band called a bunch of the members were in a band called Litany of Ruinous Entities, LORE, Lore, and they're pretty good as well. Good stuff. They say like they're influenced by. It's been a while since I talked to them about it, but Dark Throne was one of the bands that they had mentioned. So if you're into that, go check them out. So then up next was a band called Formulus. I don't really. I don't mean disrespect to some of the bands, but it was a lot of local bands, and I wasn't really familiar with them. And some of it hit, some of it missed. But I mean, they weren't terrible. None of the bands were terrible. But and this will probably go into one of the critiques I have is that it's kind of difficult when you have one of the same thing damn near 15, 20 times over. It can get a bit repetitive, and you can kind of get a little bit numb and desensitized to the whole experience. So after a while, when it was nothing but it was just death metal band after death metal band after death metal band after death metal band. I love death metal, but at the same time, I don't want to hear it for like 5-6 hours straight, which was kind of what ended up happening a little bit. So a couple of times I would dip in and out, but as far as the first night went, I'll pull that up again just for the sake of time. I would say probably of the bands I saw that night, the best ones were Sadistic Vision was good. They were pretty decent, but I would say probably the ones that were the best were probably MRSA, Graverot, and Satanus. I actually, full disclosure, I left like a little way through Satanus's set just because it was getting so late. They had some technical issues earlier in the evening with the mixers, and there were 2 stages. So it kind of it was like they were trying to get the kinks and the bugs worked out of everything. So where the show, as you can see, started, it was supposed to start at 7. This one, you play a half-hour set. They get the sound check on the other stage, half-hour set, so on and so forth. That was supposed to be the formula behind everything. They started having issues with the mixers and the boards and all that sort of stuff, so it postponed things a little bit to the point where it got to be about around 9:30, and like 2 or 3 bands had played. So it was at that point, it was just kind of like, okay, this is getting a tad exhausting, but we just kind of, soldiered through it. And so I listened to a bunch of the bands, but as far as the ones that I really enjoyed, I would say Graverot were really good. Satanus, they were good. They're definitely, I didn't know too much about them. I know Eddie from Realms of Metal, Realms of Rock. He's got a bunch of their stuff for sale on his site. They just put out a new album, Into the Nocturne. So yeah, I go and got to around saw Sadistic Vision, and then up came MRSA, and they were probably for me the first night of the bands on the first night. They stole the show. This is them right here. Let me share this page with you, and they were great. I mean, I really enjoyed them. They have a whole horror element to the band. They all wore, you couldn't really tell by looking at them here. That's the lads, and they all wore different stuff, as you can see, and it was it was a good show, good performance. It's all horror themed, and they did a fantastic job. Really, really good presentation. They definitely fit the bill as far as performance. The music was good. So definitely, as far as bands to check out that I've never heard of or that I could promote or recommend, go check them out. They're very cool. I don't know how much gigging they do in the area, but if they're out playing again, I'll definitely go check them out. And maybe I'll go pick up some merch from this the next time. And then Grave Rot, again, they're really good. They're a bit more on the death doomy side, but very good band, very killer. And like I say, after that, it got to around the time when Satanist was on, and I listened to some of their stuff, and then it was just getting late. So I was getting a little bit exhausted after being there for like 5.5 hours. So I just headed out, and I called it an evening. So that was the first night. Oh, and I was telling a story. So I ran into Bill from Satanist. Just in happenstance, we got talking to each other because even though there wasn't a lot of people there, it just so happened that two of us were wearing midnight shirts. So I guess he was kind of looking at me, and he felt like he came up and like half-assed apologized to me, like just in case I thought that he was looking at me funny or what have you. And that wasn't I wasn't even worried about it. I thought it was funny that in a building of less than 100 people at a metal show, two people there were wearing midnight shirts, but Midnight's a kick-ass band. Yeah. So that was that. So a funny little anecdote. So then Saturday rolled around, and we'll move into it a little bit here. So I ended up getting there. I was excited for the later half of the show because you can see you got Perdition Temple, and you got Druid Lord, which are more another Death Doom band. And you got Nocturnus A.D, another, killer with Mike Browning, and then Promethean Horde, and then Geegan headlined. So I got there a little bit later. I ended up getting there around the time I got there right in time to see the Noctambulant, and they were good. I can't really tell. I don't remember too much about them. I mean, they were decent. They were serviceable, but I don't really remember too much about them. After seeing the better, the lion's share of 30 bands, I don't remember all of them. So you have to forgive me. It's no disrespect intended. But then this band, Generic Christ, came on, and they were killer. They had almost like a Toxic Holocaust-y municipal waste feel to them. And they were fantastic. They did a great job. I enjoyed their set a lot. And so that's definitely a band to check out in the future. As far as I don't know how much they do locally or nationally, but they were good. I enjoyed them, and I would definitely check them out. And then the band Hibernus Mortis came on. Again, I don't really remember too much about them, so apologies to the fellows, but I don't remember too much about the band to really give you an honest or in-depth critique of them. But then up next was, so I went outside. The cool thing was you go in and out of the building. So I went, and I had some waters stashed in my truck. So I was going there and drinking those because I drink a lot of water, and at $3 a pop, it was going to get pricey to do that. So I just stashed some waters in my vehicle and went out there and drank them as I could. But then Perdition Temple came on, and they killed the place. They just murdered it. had such a high energy set, just brutal and unrelenting, ferocious the whole time. The whole set was phenomenal. Alex Bloom, the vocalist and bass player, he was fantastic as a frontman. Gene Palabicki, who everybody knows from not just Perdition Temple, but Angel Corpse, did a phenomenal job as well. They trade off doing vocals, so that was really cool. And their drummer, he was fantastic. I mean, he's a phenomenal drummer. His name escapes me at the moment, but fantastic drummer. Actually, funny story is that Alex was walking around the building, and at a quick glance, it almost looked like B. Brian Blair, the wrestler from the Killer Bees, the 80s tag team. And I was like, no, that can't be B. Brian Blair, because I know Brian enough to know that this sort of crowd and environment would not be his cup of tea. He's a bit more of like a religious conservative, like Christian conservative guy. So I knew it wasn't him, but I just laughed. And then it turned out that's who it was. It was Alex. So they got done with their set. Again, just a half hour. And then Druid Lord came on, and they were great. You know, Death Doom, very cool. No complaints with their set. Again, not a band I'm too familiar with, other than the fact I know they're on Hell's Headbangers. But beyond that, I couldn't really tell you too much about them. So then Nocturnus A.D. came on, and they were good. Another band who I'm not super familiar with. I know the history of Mike Browning and his importance to the Tampa scene, but didn't really listen to Nocturnus when they first came on the scene. I did recently, after the Morbid Angel show, I did like a whole binge thing where I went and listened to a bunch of demos. And I heard one of the first Nocturnus demos, and it had Vincent Crowley. He played guitar on it. And I thought that was really cool. And they're good. I mean, they're definitely good. But I always remember when I was a kid, I remember walking through Sam Goody one time, and I saw The Key in there on cassette. And I was a kid, so I didn't have any money. But the cover was really cool. And it was definitely something that appealed to me, but I just didn't have the money to get it. And, you know, looking back on it, you know, who the hell knows the sort of stuff that like gains cult status over the years. We're like, oh, if I had that, that'd be really cool. And I might have really loved it. And I could say, ooh, look what I got. But, you know, that sort of thing. But nonetheless, I mean, they did a really good set. The one critique I'd have is that I think people started getting worn out at this point, and there weren't as many people there as should have been there for a band of that level of importance in the scene. So it just that was kind of a common theme throughout the weekend. it wasn't a huge crowd, which is kind of disappointing, but nonetheless, everybody had a great time. So that's all that honestly all that matters. And then Promethean Horde, they took the second stage and they did a fantastic job. As always, Nick and the band, they do a great, great job, great music. Can't really say too much more, but they did a great job. A little bit of controversy because there was this dude who I've seen him at shows all over the place, and he just always looks out of place at all these various shows, like where everybody's dressed in leather and all black and wearing spikes and bandanas and stuff like that. He's like coming in like freaking like sports jackets and baggy, half hanging off his ass pants and stuff like that. But I see him at all these places. So I don't know if he likes the music or he's just there filming. He's one of these vlogger types who just goes around and has like a freaking TikTok or Instagram or whatever and just films himself out in the world. I don't know what the deal was. But anyhow, a pit got started and somebody, and he like does all these weird dances that like where everybody moshes and all that sort of things and headbangs at these shows. He's just like dancing and doing all of this and then filming himself and it was just, I don't know, very out of place. It just seemed out of place. So he's standing up there by the front of the stage and somebody started a pit and he got boom knocked on his ass and instantly. And this kind of made me feel like maybe he just does this stuff for attention. He goes to all these shows for attention, maybe because he immediately, instantly just flipped a switch, wanted to fight, sitting there causing a scene, in between songs, he's screaming, "I'm right here, face me now, come on." And he's just carrying on and just being an ass. So that just kind of made me think, you're not, I don't know why you're here, but you're not here for the music. I don't know. I could be completely wrong. He might be a local yokel that has seen more of these bands than any of us and could school us all on it. But I don't know. For some reason, I doubt it. I think he just goes to just be seen. But that was that. And then honestly, about halfway through Promethean Horde set, I checked out because I was supposed to go see Wasp Sunday night in Orlando. Got the tickets 6 months ago, all excited, bought the tickets back in May. Tuesday, one of my buddies bails on me. And the next thing you know, Saturday, my buddy's telling me he's got to work, and then he's confirming it on Sunday. So I just kind of got stuck with these tickets and I couldn't go. And I was going to try to go and just say screw it and risk having my vehicle fall apart on one of the most dangerous interstates in the country. But I just didn't end up going, and I got stuck with the tickets for the time being. And, we'll see what happens there. But I ended up not getting to see Wasp, but I ended up going to the third night of Swarmfest, and I had a blast. Thrash was definitely on the plate. There were a lot of thrash bands. And I got there later. I didn't see Sacrilus, who I've seen before. I didn't catch Reptilian War Machine. I didn't catch them. But then I got there as, I'm going to try to not butcher their name, Ejecutador, and they were fantastic. They just did a phenomenal job, just straight up old school thrash. And they do it right. Good luck. It was funny because there was a bunch of kids there they're all, it kind of does the heart well because you see them and they're all in flying the metal flag and got the heavy metal spirit. They're all there in their denim and their leather and spikes and all that sort of stuff. Got all their battle vests and all that sort of the white top sneakers. So it was cool to see that there's kids out there, even though it wasn't a large crowd. It was definitely a very passionate one. So that was very cool. They did a good job. I definitely keep an eye out for them. I believe they're local, and they did a fantastic job. And then next up on the main stage was Virulence. Virulence is a local Tampa death metal band. They do old school death metal, old school 90s Tampa death metal. It's done right. It's just good shit. And they did a fantastic job. Can't say enough about them. They played a new song that they're working on. They've got a new album that they're going to be working on for next year. And definitely look forward to seeing bigger and brighter things from them. They're a fantastic band. I've sent a couple of their EP Necrosis out to a few people. Everybody seems to like it. So they're a good band. Definitely check them out. Set up next on the second stage, and Sadistic Force from Austin, Texas. They're a band on Goat Throne Records. They're a black and thrash band, and they are fantastic. I really enjoy them. They put out an album last year, Midnight Assassins, that was probably one of the better things of the year last year. I thought it was really good, at least in my opinion. And that's the band right there. I ended up getting to talk to James, the vocalist and guitar player, for a little bit. And cool dude, very, very cool dude. And Midnight Assassin, that's their album from last year. Very good. I rated it very high on my year-end list last year. And it was killer. I really enjoyed it. And they put on a good set. They killed it. I thought they did a really good job. And then I ended up, when I talked to James, I ended up picking up their first album, Aces Wild, on cassette. Very cool. They do a cover of, speaking of Wasp, they do a cover of Blind in Texas, but they call it Snow Blind in Texas. So that was pretty cool. I picked up a patch for the eventual battle vest that I'm going to put together. And then I got this pretty killer shirt. So I don't know if you can see it with the beard in the way, but it's pretty cool. And they only had it in extra large because they flew in and he didn't bring any double X's with him. So he told me if I want, just hit him up on his email and he could figure something out for me. But I said, I'll just buy this one for right now and I'll just have to take the sleeves off. It could be a workout shirt. But they did a phenomenal job and they were really good. They're one of those bands. They were playing some new stuff, so they're getting ready to put some new stuff out as well. And yeah, they did a great job. And then next up was a band called Interceptor. Don't know too much about Interceptor. They kind of had that Venom, Celtic Frost influence going on. The vocalist, he kind of has a little bit of a Tom G. Warrior thing going on. They all look like kids to me. They all look like they're in high school. But they did a really good job. The crowd was passionate. As you can see, on this clip here, and yeah, they did a good job. But overall, I will say, not to be a dick, but they basically sounded like they sound like Venom and Celtic Frost, and it was kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, if I want to listen to that, I'll listen to that. But they didn't reinvent the wheel by any stretch of the imagination, so it just kind of was like, it was okay. But then up next was a band called Impurity, death metal. I really didn't follow them too much. I think I was in and out of the building. Actually, as a matter of fact, I went outside and I was going to my truck to get some more water, and I hear Ronnie's voice, and he's talking to somebody. So I go over to say hi to him, and as it turned out, it was pro wrestler Chris Jericho. So I ended up getting to talk to Ronnie, meet Jericho. He was very nice. He humored me, and I felt like an idiot because what are the chances that I show up wearing a Road Warriors t-shirt and he's there and famous pro wrestlers there. And so I kind of felt obliged to go over there, not just to say hi to Ronnie, but, trying to like avoid him. Like, I don't know who he is, but I'm wearing a wrestling tee is kind of stupid. So, but he was nice, and he had a buddy with him, a guy named Ed, and he was very personable, very nice guy. I snubbed him a little bit at first just because I got busy talking to Ronnie and Chris. But then I apologized and said hi to him, and so that was that. And yeah, so I went back inside, and Narcotic Wasteland was on the stage, and that is Dallas Toller Wade, formerly of Nile, his band, and they were good. I mean, he's a fantastic guitar player. The whole band is top notch, just stellar musicians, very technically sound, very technically precise, and they were really good. And then Sorcerer came on, and they did a fantastic job. But at that point, I was ready to see Nasty Savage. I was ready to see them come on and hit the stage, and they did, and they were fantastic. They did a great job. Ronnie has a great presence, great charisma. He had the crowd eating out of his hand the entire time. He did all, he's smashing the TV against his chest. He got color, towards the end of the set. But they played 8 songs, and they did Gladiator, they did Gladiator, they did Unchained Angel, they did Witch's Sabbath, Jeopardy Room, Triple X, Metal Knights, You Snooze, You Lose, and I'm trying to think of the second. Asmodeus was the second song they did. And yeah, and that was a set. They did a killer job. It was a good time. And then I headed out, and yeah, it was a good show. Definitely worth it. Nick and everybody involved did an excellent job. So that's all I can say as far as that one. So that was Swarmfest 2024. Hopefully you enjoy it. Yes, that was that. So we're at a half hour here of just me speaking, and so we'll end it here. I hope you enjoy the video. Hope you check out more of the videos if you like this one. I have stuff coming in the future. But other than that, if you're new here, go check out some of my other stuff. And if you feel like it, subscribe to the channel. It would certainly help out, but I'm not going to pressure you. So either way. So as always, stay sick, stay heavy, stay brutal. Always tuck your chin up on impact. Don't forget to breathe. Everyone have a good one. And again, have a happy Thanksgiving. Everyone take it easy. Stay safe. We'll catch you on the next one. Later.